Oikos presents 15 Seconds of Strength.
Here we go. Steve's got a trunk full of groceries and no one to help him.
Oh, that's tough, Jim. Looks like a 5-trip load at least.
He grabs the first bag, the second. Bob, it looks like he's trying to do it all one trip. He shimmies the door open, steps over the dog. Oh, and he stumbles.
Oh, right into the kitchen without missing a beat. Jim, now that's a man who eats his protein-packed Oikos.
With 15 grams of complete protein in each cup, Oikos Triple Zero can help build strength for every day. Oikos, stronger makes everything better.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Patrick. I'm here as always with Ben. I just sang a little bit.
I loved it. Why do you not sing more?
Welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk today. I found myself in, let's just call it the last year or so, as my boys get older, I am hanging out with their friends' parents more. So I'm being exposed to people who I don't meet in CrossFit gyms, which is like 97% of the people I've met in the last 15 years. I've met them in a CrossFit gym, and I find myself
has been exposed.
Yes.
Oh no, patch it quick.
And I find myself sometimes in conversations with people about the things that you and I talk about here on Chasing Excellence, whether it's fitness or health or nutrition or mindset or all these things. And I sometimes find myself really struggling to know not even how to help, but like where do I begin this conversation? Where do I begin this conversation with somebody who hasn't been thinking about these things for the last 20 plus years like you and I have, or haven't been having these conversations like you and I have for the last 10 years. And for our folks who are listening, a lot of folks have been listening to this for a long time. So like, how do they have conversations with people when those folks haven't been listening to Chasing Excellence or any number of other podcasts or reading the books that we read to? So like the challenge kept coming back to me, which is like, how do we help people? But first, where do we know how to even begin to help people? And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to put some thoughts together as to, for folks out there, as well as for us, you and I, like, how do we know where to begin if our goal is to help people chase what truly matters in the way that we are ourselves trying to chase what truly matters?
Yeah, I think that all of us, when I say all of us, it's me, you, and everyone that listens here regularly, part of our crew, have come up against this, right? Which is people are curious, or people are judgmental, or somewhere in between.
Or they're just stuck.
What's that?
Or they're just stuck.
Yeah, I think you said, or they suck. I was like, whoa, that was a leap. Okay. He's an angry elf. Right. So yeah, exactly. They're stuck, or the opposite. They don't care, right? Yep. They don't want this in there. So, right. So here's the first place I always go to, and we talked about this before, is do they want help? Yeah. It's one of those things like try to help an alcoholic that doesn't want to be helped is frustrating at best, and just a complete waste of time at work, right? It makes no sense. It's just going to end up in worse destruction. Right. But once they raise their hand, and this is the thing I've always said, is I, as a gym owner, as a trainer, as a coach, when somebody walks in through the walls of my gym, I see that as them popping up out of the crowd, raising their hands, walking to the front, coming up to me and saying, help me. I want help. Now, they might not say that. They might walk through the gym and they might not be coachable. They might push against everything that you say. That doesn't mean that they're not there to be helped. They've done the work. So now, the reason that sometimes that happens as a coach, as somebody who cares, as someone who's knowledgeable, as someone that's been exploring this for the last 2 decades, I'm saying you guys, our listeners, if somebody is resisting this, it might not be that they're not raising their hand. It might be the situation where we're not giving them the first right steps. Mm-hmm. And those first right steps to me is understanding their starting point. Yep. And that's not necessarily, can they squat below parallel? It's not like how many calories are they intaking a day? It's not how much sleep are they getting? It has way more to do with, to borrow words from Greg Glassman, their physical and psychological tolerances, like their threshold. Mm-hmm. Like, what we need to be able to do is, this is like the very first step of, we'll get into sort of like change agents and step by step, but what we're really trying to do is change. That's what we're trying to do, is change people. Well, the way you get someone to change, evolve, adapt, like a muscle, is by working it at its threshold. That means you have to give it enough of a stimulus that there is a forced adaptation response. Then you have to give it not too much that it doesn't tear, break, or get so sore or so mentally broken because it was so challenging and hard that they don't want to go back the next time. So this is like principle number one, is forget all that jargon and just meeting them where they are. And this is really usually like so leapfrogged over, especially by people that are so knowledgeable and eager to help, because we're so quick to go like, well, there's these 5 factors, and here's what you got to do is you got to eat stuff that's been grown out of the ground, and there's this thing called ultra processed food, and what we need to do is combine weightlifting with body weight and cardio, and there's these circadian rhythms, and what we need to do is understand this mindset spectrum, and people like fire hose to the face and no thanks. Right. Or you go, hey, let's just start off with something really simple like the gym. Yep. And then you miss the point of where they actually are. You don't make it a rewarding, both physically and mentally and emotionally. We want to make sure that, to use a couple stories here, and I've shared a couple of these before. My son, Bodie, is really into soccer now, but that wasn't always the case. He struggled huge in soccer in the early times, to the point where we stopped giving him shorts with pockets in them, because he would just stand at the center of the field, put his hands in his pockets, and let the ball or a player just go right by him. And sometimes he wouldn't even turn. The ball, like, he would just like stand there. And it was like, oh my God, okay, like, how do we get this kid, who I know he doesn't want that to be the case, to get closer to this? And the story I've shared on this show before is, took him to a field, and all I want to do is make it just like 101, make it fun. Like my goal, just like somebody that comes in the gym, the goal is to get them to want to go back to the gym the next day, because you can't make any changes in one day. Like, it's zero. It doesn't happen. What you need is the drip, 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 drip to fill up the bucket. Even if you flood the bucket one day, it's going to evaporate in 6 months because he hasn't come back. So you got to keep the bucket. We're trying to fill it and keep it full. So took him to the empty field. So it's just the two of us, no one else, no other judgment. And we had, 10 soccer balls, and we lay them all out. And of course, he takes it to where they take penalty kicks, right? And he puts the ball down, takes the big steps back like they do, lines it up in the little diagonal, takes a swing, and the ball like doesn't get off the ground, dribble, and makes like halfway. And he is like pissed and frustrated. I would be too, right? And I suck and all these things. Now the belief system comes in. So instead, what I did is I put the ball on the goal line. I was like, dude, just kick it as hard as you can. And he kicks as hard as he can, and it goes in the net. And I was like, grab the next one, kick it right, and just, we did probably 50 of those. And he can't miss. Sometimes they dribble a little bit, but they are all hitting the back of the net, because the back of the net is 8 feet from the goal line. And after a bunch of those, okay, now you move the ball back a few and a few and a few. And over time, we got back. He has the biggest foot on the team now. It's like, and he loves it, and he does it on his own. But what we're trying to do, very first step, before we get into any of the other stuff, is meet them where they are, make it rewarding.
I want to go back to the first thing you said, which is something we've talked about before, which is this idea of the raised hand, right? And only responding when you get the sense, at least, that they are raising their hand and saying whatever it might be. I'm stuck. I'm confused. I'm interested. I'm curious. Whatever the spark might be that would get their hands raised. And I think using the gym as as like the workshop where you work through these things makes a lot of sense. But there's a lot of people who, as we know, like they're never going to walk into your gym, or at least I'm not going to say that. Their first step is not to walk into a gym. Maybe they're 2, 3, 4 steps away from it. So I'm just curious, outside of the gym context, how do we know if somebody is really raising their hand and saying, I am actually interested in this, versus I should be interested in this. I know I should be interested in this, but secretly I'm actually not. Like those two things can feel like the same person if we're not careful.
There's varying degrees here, right? There's no binary. It's not black and white. We want so much to say like, this is the person to help. This is not. That's not the real world. Some people are at step, half of a step. Other people are at the 99-yard line and just need the last little bit.
Yeah.
I think what we need to discern more is, are we sharing this information because this person wants to be helped and I am genuinely trying to help? Or what I see a little bit more often is, I am so knowledgeable. Let me feed my own ego, present myself as an expert, and be able to tell you, climb up the social hierarchy, and now I get to kind of like tell you about all the things I've done in terms of the fitness, the health in that space, and we feed our health spirit, ego. That's the thing that I see a little bit more frequently. And if someone is genuinely curious, I don't think it's a hard thing to decipher. Yep. If someone is asking true, insightful questions and truly asking for your insight and advice, that's very different than there just being a conversation about food. Mm-hmm. There just being a conversation about nutrition. There just being a conversation about training. I stay on the sidelines of those. I don't interject at all. Yep. Like when those are happening, we're getting together, as you said, with your kids' parents, and they're all talking about nutrition or exercise or training or sleep or circadian rhythms. I sit on the sidelines. Yeah. I don't interject at all. If someone goes, Ben, what do you think? I'll tell them what I think. If someone goes in private, I'd love for you to help me. So like my best friend reached out this morning. He's like, what do you think about baking soda as a pre-workout supplement? Like that's a friend truly asking, what is your take on this? This is where I want to help. He's raising his hand and saying this, as opposed to topic of conversation at the sidelines and people are talking about high rocks, or people are talking about this new boot camp class that's down the street, or someone is talking about intermittent fasting or keto or carnivore or this latest fitness influencer. Like all kind of stay on the sidelines in those sense. So I don't think the raising the hand thing is actually that hard to tell because they're actually going to verbally raise their hand and go, what do you think? That's where it's time to help.
Yeah. And I think you said this already, but I think it's worth repeating, which is, I think there's a sort of bidirectionality of curiosity that needs to exist for this to make any sense. In other words, they've got to express a certain amount of curiosity to say, hey, Ben, like, can you tell me about baking soda as a pre-workout, whatever the example might be. But then I think for us, the folks who tend to sometimes get these questions, I think the onus is then on us to not, to your point, download everything that you've ever read, thought, done, believed about health, fitness, fulfillment, all these things, not to dump it on them, but in fact, actually reciprocate that curiosity to get a sense of where they're coming from. And the right entry point, if you're curious and you listen and you ask enough questions, I think the right entry point actually does open itself up with that sort of bi-directional conversation.
Absolutely. That's exactly. So if somebody was curious and asked the questions, was looking for help, the first things back should be an intake on your part. You have to find out where is my starting point? This is what I was saying about the psychological and physiological tolerances.
Yeah.
So now you're going like, well, tell me a little bit more about that. What have you tried? Where have you come from? Where have you fallen short before? What are you currently doing? What are your goals? What's your take on your ability to actually do this? And then you start to figure out where the openings are. And for different people, it's going to be a different kind of steps along the threshold. Most people are going to want to go right towards the action. So you should sleep more, you should eat better, you should exercise more, that type of thing. We've talked about this plenty of times. That's downstream of a few other things that come before that. And the first one is we need to lay some groundwork. We need to grow some roots, right? So the idea is that if you are getting someone to go to bed earlier, to get more sleep, to eat better, exercise, you've talked about this before, but like planting seeds, right? That's like you're planting a seed and you hope that something germinates and grows.
Right.
What we actually want to do, though, is create a really strong root system first. The roots are what it's all about. The little seed that could get eaten by some predator, stepped on, some bad weather comes, wipes it out. But a really strong root system is embedded, and it will grow forever. Every year that stuff comes back. Think of like your lawn, right? It's a deep root system, or an actual forest.
Yep.
A forest doesn't go away because the roots are so embedded. That root system is their own identity. So if they have if their identity is one that is not empowering, it is a limiting identity, no matter what we do, it's not going to be long-lived, and it's going to potentially crumble at anything. So this is where, when I start, I'm really trying to get, even before I even like have an understanding of where they are starting, before the download, I just try to like reinforce the identity that I want them to have. And the identity I want them to have is that they are coachable, that they have a growth mindset, that they are disciplined, that they are curious, that they have grit. And this is the language I use with my kids all the time. Every time I can possibly say those words back to them, I say them back to them. Like the discipline you have, Bodhi, to get up in the morning and do a set of pull-ups before, and which, by the way, he didn't do without me telling him to do for a very long time, but now he's doing it on his own. Now you are so disciplined. You do this. I'm feeding the language to him. Now, obviously, that's easier to do with a 8 to 13-year-old than it is to do with a 33-year-old. But it doesn't mean you can't do it with a 33-year-old. Our minds and our brains are plastic, and they're looking for new ways to wire. And all we have to do is start laying new paths. And that path is laid by language. And if they're not going to say it to themselves, we're going to say it to them. It is not what I think of myself. It is not what you think of me. It's what I think you think of me that matters most. We conform to the identities that we think other people think of us. So if you think your friends think you're funny, guess what you are? You act as the funny guy. If you think your friends think that you're the health guy, guess how you act? You're the guy that is the healthy guy. So this is what we as people, we are the environment. We are shaping the environment. So this is the first place is you go identity, beliefs, and then you go into actions. Identity, beliefs, actions. It is bidirectional, so you can cheat it a little bit by just like forcing yourself to get up every morning and do a set of 20 push-ups. Even if you don't believe it, even if you don't have that identity, even if you do that enough times, you start to go like, wait a minute. I am that kind of guy. I do train hard. I am disciplined. It is bidirectional. So it's not, again, it's a dichotomy of the and. We can do both. But if you have a belief system, or you're with somebody that has a belief system that's like, I've never been into fitness. I'm just not the kind of person that finishes things that I start. I always lose motivation after a few weeks. I'm a stress eater. I'm a night owl. I'm all or nothing. So I don't think I should even start this. We need to change that language. We need to start we need to get them to start believing I am someone who follows through on what matters. I am someone who shows up when it's hard. I am disciplined. And when we do that, then the belief system starts to come in. And then you start to believe yeah, I do believe that consistency matters more than the outcome today. I do believe that small actions add up to big things. I do believe that if I want to be a good parent, I need to role model that. I do believe that patience is a virtue and that it's worth showing that in challenging times. And then all of a sudden, the actions start to follow it. So this is where we, in the beginning, and obviously this is different contextually based off your relationship with these people. Yep. If you're talking to somebody that is, as you said, I think of an in-law or your parents or a friend you haven't seen in a long time coming to you. It's harder to do it because you don't get the drip, drip, drip ability to do this, but you can say they need someone to say it back to them. That's such a good question. That's awesome. Again, the way that I always say this in when someone comes in the gym, in the first coaching session, whether they do anything good or not, I tell them, I always say, wow, that's awesome. You're really coachable. Yep. It's going to be really fun to work with you. I always say that, you're really coachable. I'm telling them the most important trait that they can have in this coach-athlete relationship, that you not being defensive about my feedback is super awesome. And they go, I am coachable. I am coachable. And now all of a sudden the ball can roll. If we have somebody with a fixed mindset or a self-limiting belief system, identity, this is where they might be raising their hand, but unless we address those factors, we're planting seeds that aren't going to take root. Mm-hmm. So this is where we kind of ... or you just keep on planting the seed over and over and over. This is the other way, right? But this takes a lot of accountability, being there with them. I'm going to come by your house and pick you up for the gym every day at 6 a.m. We're going to do this thing together. Some sort of real accountability system to get them to be able to do this thing over and over again until it becomes their belief system.
We're brought to you by Masa Chips, the health-conscious snack revolutionizing how we think about chips by using 100% grass-fed beef tallow instead of seed oils. Go to masachips.com. That's M-A-S-A chips.com/excellence. Use the code excellence. Get yourself 25% off your first order. Did you know that all chips used to be cooked in tallow until the 1990s when corporations switched to cheap processed seed oils? Today, these seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories and are linked to serious metabolic health issues and inflammation. Masa is changing the game with their delicious tortilla chips made from just 3 ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Since the beef tallow makes these chips more satiating, you won't find yourself mindlessly overeating, supporting your training, your nutrition, your health, like we talk about here on the show all the time. Masa has already won over tens of thousands of customers and health experts alike. So check them out at masachips.com/excellence. That's M-A-S-A chips.com/excellence. Make sure you use the code excellence to get 25% off your first order. We're brought to you this time around by Monarch Money, a comprehensive financial command center that brings peace of mind to your financial life by giving you full visibility and control over your accounts all in one place. Use the code excellence at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's half price for taking control of what truly matters in your financial health. I've been using Monarch Money alongside my wife, and it's completely transformed our awareness around our finances. No more guessing, no more hiding, just clarity. Every month we sit down for our financial check-in, which aligns perfectly with our intention to maintain financial freedom. And without fail, the conversation always circles back to one shocking realization, which is our grocery bill. The data does not lie. All those fruits and vegetables and lean protein sources do add up when you're trying to maintain the nutrition pillar of our 5 factors of health. We laugh about it now, but there's genuine concern when we think about the 2 growing boys in our house and their already impressive appetites. And the Monarch projections for our grocery spending in 5 years are basically telling us to buy a farm. But that's the beauty of Monarch. It helps us stay aware of our spending patterns, set intentional financial goals, and take action before our boys eat literally everything in the house. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Visit monarchmoney.com. Use the code excellence for 50% off your first year. I can imagine there are sort of 2 environments or 2 contexts where that sort of drip, drip, drip is really effective. One of them is they're paying me and they keep showing up. And so it's my job to be that voice or to give them words to feed the beliefs. So that's scenario 1, obviously something that you experience all the time there at the gym. And then I think the other one is a close friend, a family member, mother, neighbor, cousin, whatever. And we can only do that very infrequently because, to your point, if we really want to be the voice of the better story for somebody, there is a degree to which repetition is our most potent weapon. And if that's the case, then we can only do that to so many people, certainly at the same time. And so I guess what I'm trying to get at, or what I'm trying to say, is we've got to be really careful that we don't try to do this to too many people if it's not our job. But in fact, we've got to be really careful, back to sort of like, okay, are they raising their hand? Do we have a relationship where they are curious, where I'm curious about them, where we're comfortable together, and not try to do it kind of in the context that I started this conversation with, which is like, hey, we've talked twice before in our lives, right? Mm-hmm. Versus like, I can only do this to 1 or 2 or 4, 1 or 2 or 3 people, because it is pretty intensive. To do it well, it is pretty intensive. So I think it's really important for us to recognize our own limitations when we do want to step up and say, this person seems to want some help. I think I can help them. Even that's not enough, because then it's, do I actually have the bandwidth to do it in the way that it needs to be done so I can help them attain or achieve whatever it is they're aiming for?
Yeah, there's varying degrees, right? So you could do this as like, okay, we've said this, Heather and I say this a lot, but like, oh my God, it'd be just so awesome if that person moved in with us. Just like,
yep,
come under.
Which people have done
under
our
wing.
Before.
I just want to come under. We've had so many people live with us. We've done that with so many people, right?
Yeah,
that's the reason we keep on saying it.
I know.
Just come under our wing. Come here. We want to like pull you into this. And the reason we know that is because environment matters so much.
Yeah.
So that's the holistic change. That's the immersion type thing where we are dropping someone in and they're either going to sink or swim. Mm-hmm. There are other varying degrees though, which is like, yes, our bandwidth is limited. Yes, we can only serve so many people, but we can also be a spark. We don't have to be the continuous flame that keeps them going. And that can be done through a word, right? Like a belief in them. Yep. Like help change you are the type of person, ... You are the type of person that can do this. I've seen you do other hard things. You know, I've seen how we had a guy come back to the gym today who hasn't been in the gym since pre-COVID. That's 5 years. Yep. When he joined, he was probably client number 3 or 4 of mine at Boston Sports Club. He lost 100 pounds. Now he's back and he needs help again. And the words, I'm giving him the words. He's like, I need help. I need help. I'm like, dude, you know how to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, you've done this before. You've done hard things. You know how to make this thing happen. I know that you can do like that. As opposed to like, I need help and being like, yup, okay. Just like give them that little bit and that they latch onto and go, we're trying to change the environment around them. So this is the other thing we can do if we don't have the bandwidth to actually like, hey, come to the gym and come do this, and we're going to have, see you 3 times a week, whatever. It is the in-law. It is at the cocktail party or the sidelines, someone's looking for something quick. A lot of the places I start with is I'm going to try to change their environment. Now, that doesn't mean go build a home gym. That doesn't mean go clean out your pantry. It doesn't mean get an 8 sleep. It means listen to this podcast. Not this one. I'll send them a podcast about about anything that I feel like is one of those things that is going to, through that little intake, create that little, send them, Matt Walker on Joe Rogan about sleep. Send them something about training, something about, Casey and Callie Means about nutrition. Like, send them something that helps to change your environment. Is not just where you work and where you sleep and the climate and the all of the rest, your geography. It's who you surround yourself with is actually the most important thing. And most people don't have the ability to literally just change the human figures that are close to them, but they can change their mentors. And the easiest way to get a new mentor is not to go and reach out to someone and say, will you mentor me? It's to absorb their wisdom through the way that they've passed it down, through podcasts, books, and other blog posts and other ways that they've shared that information. And you're trying to, the saying is, show me the last 10 podcasts you've listened to, and I have a pretty good understanding of what you're like as a person. Mm-hmm. I might not nail it, but I can directionally kind of tell you, like, you're this type of person. So send them 5 podcasts. Mm-hmm. Not all at once, right? Listen to this. What'd you think? What were your takeaways? Very cool. This is what I thought about that. Didn't you find it interesting that ... And then summon another one. Same thing. Did you get a chance to listen to that? Not yet? Okay. When you do, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were on this part. And now you're changing the environment, the way that they're thinking. Mm-hmm. You've literally put them in a different situation. You can take the same strand of DNA, put it in one environment, and it will turn into bone. You take that exact same strand of DNA, put it in another environment, it will turn into muscle. Put the exact same strand of DNA, put in another one, and it will turn into fat. Like, it's just the environment shapes cells. So one of the massive things is what kind of stimulus is what's coming in. And one of the easiest ways to do that, if you don't have the bandwidth to do this yourself, is let other people mentor them. Mm-hmm. Like, we're in the information age. There's no shortage of information that we could give this person basically create a more effective college course than has probably ever been created, just by a little curated sequencing of podcasts. Yep. Maybe throw in a book here or there.
Exactly. I want to go back a little bit to what we talked about, which is kind of meeting people where they are. And I want to ask you something we've talked about a bit in the past, but let's say that, someone out there listening is talking to their sister, right? And this conversation begins, and their sister, like, never listened to Chasing Excellence, hasn't been in a gym in however many years.
No sisters that haven't listened to Chasing Excellence.
Still thinks that, fat is bad for her, whatever it might be, like, wherever they're starting from. If the sister comes and says, you know what, I've got, I'm going to a wedding in 6 months and I really just need to lose 20 pounds, whatever it might be, right? Something that we know is perhaps a bit more of a shallow goal than perhaps we would have, or the folks who are listening. Is the recommendation when we're meeting somebody where they are to say, that's an amazing goal, that's exactly where we should talk, or that's exactly what we should talk about? Or should we try to reimagine or have them redefine what success looks like as it relates to health? Should we zoom all the way out and talk to them about what we talk about, which is peace of mind and fulfillment and the deathbed exercise and satisfaction, and where health fits into that pursuit as it relates to, freedom and all those things? Where do you begin when somebody, again, back to my original idea here of, like, when somebody hasn't been engaged in these conversations and they're like, hey, I really want 6-pack abs. I really want to lose 20 pounds. I really want to make $1 million, whatever the goal might be. Do you redirect that goal or do you accept that goal and go forward from there?
You work with the goal because the goal is the Trojan horse. The goal is the way into all of the other stuff. Without that goal, I'd wager to bet that the majority of the people listening to this podcast are listening to this podcast because they were interested in the performance aspect to try to get better at the sport of CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
I would wager to bet that the most people listening to this podcast today are not here for that.
Yep.
But that's what got them in here. When people come to the gym, they come because they believe that they're coming to get their goal, to lose 20 pounds, to look good for the wedding, whatever it is, to get a 6-pack. What we don't want to do is say, you're wrong. That's the wrong goal. We need to reframe that. Say, yes, let's go do that.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go along that journey, you start to see things because you're moving. Movement is the key. As long as we're going direction, like think of it as I've been using this a lot, but recently, but put your arms out to the side and kind of like wave them forward. As long as we're moving in this direction, as long as we're moving forward,
Yep.
right? We're good because we're not moving backwards behind us.
Yep.
Now, we might be going way too far to the right or way too far to the left, but directionally, we're moving forward. Somebody that is already under eating, and this is that thinks fat is bad for you can kind of picture this person, right? She's a 31-year-old, overworked, stressed mom that is already too skinny, that thinks fat is calories are bad. It comes in and says, I want to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go. That's the wrong goal. Because now what happens is she's not coming in tomorrow. She's going to go find somebody else that will say, that, awesome, let's go do that. When she says, I want to lose weight, in my mind, I interpret that as I want to look, feel, and perform better.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's go do that. Let's go do that. We don't need to change her mind tomorrow or certainly not today. We have, if they keep coming back, we potentially have decades to work on that. And anyone that's run a gym in this space like I have has seen this so many times, dozens of times. They come in for one thing and they're staying for another. So I'm a big believer in don't change people's goals. Work with them, talk to them, understand them, help them, listen more, educate them, help them grow. And then all of a sudden that whole thing of like, we're going this direction starts to like, we start to get a little bit more aligned and we start to close that in closer and closer until we go, oh, okay. So yeah, actually the thing I really want is vitality. What I actually really want is confidence. What I actually really want is to feel better in my body and energy. And what I really love to be able to do is feel this way, not just today, tomorrow, but forever. Mm-hmm. How's that? Like, they're like, yeah. And they tell you these words, right? And guess what? I still want to look awesome. Mm-hmm. Great. Right. Like, that's awesome. Me too. And that's where it's like, we don't need to debate it. It's an unnecessary debate. That's like saying someone being like, that's an alcoholic and comes to you and says, I want help. I really, really, really would like to just cut down to like 6 beers a day. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, that's the wrong goal. Like, what? They're coming to you saying that they want help. They know that there's this thing that's there where they are, that there's this better place, and go, well, cool, let's work on that. Yep, let's do that. Tell me more. Like, why? And what do you think's on the other side of that? And have you tried this before?
Yep. Yeah, and it's back to that curiosity, and it's back to what you talked about, which is not going into this conversation with the thought of, I'm going to show you how smart I am. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you how much I've thought about this. I'm going to impress you with how much
I just
knowledge.
listened to Andrew Huberman, and let me tell you about the prefrontal cortex.
That's right. That's right. Don't show people how many Huberman episodes you have listened to in the past. But I think I'm joking, but I actually think it's quite hard. It's quite hard when somebody says, I need your help, to not put yourself up on the pedestal and say, well, they want my help because I know a lot. And so therefore, if they're asking me for help, what they're doing is saying, please tell me everything you know. And I think that's an easy trap to fall into. And it's one I've fallen into, 6,000 or 7,000 times in my life. But I think we all have also had the experience of what, call it a teacher, a mentor, a good friend or whatever. When somebody really gets through to us and really helps us change our minds, it's never because they told us something and then we believed it, right? That's not how our minds actually change. They were able to kind of open the door or, plant the seeds, as we've been saying. And then we did the work of watering the garden. We did the work of tending the garden. We did the work of pulling the vegetables out when they're ready. So we have to remember that if that was the case for us, then it's going to be the case for the people who are coming to us with these questions, looking for this advice, looking for this guidance. They don't want somebody to tell them what to do because they've already had 15 people do that and it didn't work. What they're looking for is somebody to show them, and I love what you said, like show them that they are more capable than they perhaps believe that they are, by giving them those words, by even just making them see in their own lives where they have displayed grit or where they have had a growth mindset or where they have demonstrated consistency. Because a lot of times we don't realize this in ourselves until somebody can point that back at us and say, right. Shoot, you're right. And it was a different context, but you know what? I do have these skills or these abilities. And so I think it's really, really easy to think I am here to impart wisdom upon this person. But man, it's way more effective if what our mindset is, I'm here to ask enough questions that they figure this out for themselves. And I think that's what a really good coach does.
It's exactly what a really good coaches ask really good questions.
Yeah.
It's the right thing. I have a friend who shared this with me recently, which is he's done phenomenal in business, and he was brought up in an incredible environment. His mom was just an incredible entrepreneur and salesperson and just got people to do things that she wanted them to do. And the thing he said he inherited from her was, you have conversations in such a way and you ask questions in such a way that you get people to come up with the solutions on themselves, and they give themselves the credit for it. And you then he's like, I don't need any credit. He's like, he'll be talking, because he uses this, him and his mom both use this on their dad. And he works with his dad still. And his dad would be like, you know what we need to do, And he'll just ask the questions, be like, is that because of this? And have we talked to that person? And is there an alternative path? Is there another approach to this thing? And then he'll just lead them down, kind of like an expert interrogator or like cross-witnessing somebody, until his dad will kind of be like, all right, you know what we should do? We should do this. And he'll just go, that's a great idea. Let's go do that. And he's had that. That's what a great coach does. A great coach makes the person feel like they are empowered, that they're the ones making the decisions. And then you're feeding it back to them the whole time of like, again, you are so coachable. You do hard things. You are disciplined. You have grit. You do hard things. You do keep promises to yourself, and just kind of keep looping that back on top of themselves. And again, in a coach environment, in a parent's environment, a whole lot easier than when you're in this more transactional, more infrequent thing. But the idea is exactly right, is ask the questions so that they can feel empowered, that they come up with themselves. That's how you get people to do, when they believe it. When they believe the things. If you're like, hey, you need to go to bed at 8:30 every night. Like, you get up, you're an overachiever. You get up at 4:30 every morning. Do you know that? You're going to bed at 11. You're getting 5 hours of sleep. Do you know what's happening there? Like, you're not going to make any change.
Yep.
if you can somehow get someone to come up to the idea that I think I should go to bed at 8:30 every night, you're like, that's a good idea. That's where we're trying to get to with these conversations.
We're brought to you by Function Health, the only platform that gives you access to over 160 biomarkers and empowers you to take true ownership of your health. Learn more and join by using our link, functionhealth.com/excellence. Just this morning, as it happens, both my wife and I got our blood drawn through Function Health because we believe in the foundation of health as freedom, just like you. Inside of the Function platform, you can test over 160 biomarkers from health to hormones to toxins, inflammation, and stress. It's all about awareness, truly understanding what's happening in your body, which is why top health leaders like Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Andrew Huberman, and Dr. Jeremy London are all behind Function Health. For women especially, understanding your hormone levels can be crucial when considering practices like fasting. Women's bodies respond differently to caloric restriction due to their endocrine systems being closely connected to energy availability. Function helps you test, not guess, giving you the information you need to make intentional choices aligned with your health goals. This is exactly why we talk about the 5 factors of health. Proper training, nutrition, sleep, mindset, and connection all depend on knowing what's actually happening in your body. Function Health isn't just about data. It's about giving you the actionable insights that lead to that peace of mind we're all chasing. Learn more and take ownership of your health by visiting functionhealth.com/excellence. We're sponsored this time around by Element, makers of the cleanest, most effective electrolyte drink mix that's helping folks worldwide optimize their health and performance. Visit drinkelement.com/excellence to claim your free Element sample pack with any order you make through that link. When we talk about the 5 factors of health, training and nutrition are right there at the top of the list, and proper hydration plays a crucial role in both. That's where Element comes in. They've created a perfectly balanced electrolyte mix with the exact minerals you need and nothing that you don't. With the summer months upon us, their new lemonade salt flavor is lovely. It's the perfect blend of tart and salty. Some people say I am also the perfect blend of tart and salty that makes staying hydrated actually enjoyable. Whether you're pushing through tough workouts, maintaining a low-carb lifestyle, or practicing intermittent fasting, Element helps you stay on top of your game with 0 sugars and 0 artificial ingredients. Claim your free Element sample pack by visiting drinkelement.com/excellence and ordering any of their tasty offerings. I want to start to wrap this conversation up. I did want to get into, and hopefully this doesn't totally contradict the last thing you just said, and if it did, tell me. But what I want to get to a little bit is, okay, we've got a person, they've raised their hand, they're showing us all the signs that they are interested. There's been this bi-directional curiosity. We feel like we can help. We feel like we want to help. We feel like they're receptive to it. All the soil is ready, right? The soil is ready for us to throw some seeds down. I want to talk a little bit about like minimum viable actions. In other words, like having the 5 factors of health as we have it: training, sleeping, mindset, nutrition, and connection. Like these are still the right places that we all want to spend our time thinking about and moving towards and acting upon. And so I do just want to kind of check through each one of those 5 factors. Again, we've got a person who's ready, who's open. You know, we've done what we can to plant the right seeds in terms of stories and beliefs and identity, and that's there. And they're like, okay, well, what do I do, Ben? Like, give me something to do tomorrow. We don't want to overwhelm them. We don't want to throw everything at them, knowing that they're starting from, day one of this pursuit. Each of the 5 factors, I'd love some thoughts on like little baby steps, little things that we can either suggest they do or do with them or whatever it might be. So let's just kind of check down our 5 factors here and start with training. Maybe somebody hasn't been in the gym for a while. Maybe it's been years, whatever it might be. Talk to us a little bit about where you would get somebody moving, get them in the direction of training.
So what you just, as you just said at the very end, that's actually where you need to start is what is the profile, right? Mm-hmm. In business speak, it's like create customer profiles. Who's your target market and everything. When you create a target market, it's not just like 18 to 24-year-olds that live in metropolitan areas that make $100,000. You want to come up with everything. It's like, what podcasts are they listening to? What music are they listening to? Where do they go to eat? Like that. So what we need to do is understand truly where they're coming from. If we're going to, because we need to, the right first action depends. Not everything is dependent on that. If they have never exercised a day in their life, that first action is going to be and they're 350 pounds and they get out of breath getting up out of a chair. So different than someone, as you just said, that hasn't exercised in a couple years. You maybe used to be a college athlete, very familiar with fitness, but just needs that little kick in the pants, versus somebody that is going to the gym 5 days a week, but just isn't seeing results.
Yep.
Right. So you tell me, who do you want to start with?
Let's start with somebody who, or let's just do this as an example for somebody who is somewhat active, probably been away from the gym for a little bit and knows that, like, okay, that's the missing piece. Like, not straight off the couch, not, no huge impairments, just like I'm kind of active, but I'm not that active.
Yep. What we'd want to do is first go back to the very beginning of this, is you want to make the experience rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be just, if I have that person go, okay, what I'd like for you to do is go for a 30-minute walk tomorrow. That might be enjoyable, but they're actually not going to, there's no runner's high. There's no, I accomplished something, dopamine response. There's no oxytocin. There's no like actual thing of like, wow, that was something. So we need to find that sweet spot for that person of the right level of psychological and physical tolerance or threshold.
Mm-hmm.
For someone like that, I would give them something that I feel like they'd be able to, I would need a little bit more intake than even just that. That'd be the first thing. Okay. Tell me about your running. Like, they'll be like, I can't run a mile. Okay. That's super helpful rather than like, I could probably go out and run 5 miles right now.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a big, big difference. So it's even like, we need to narrow it even more. But the short answer is I would give them some sort of body weight circuit is what I would do. Minimal equipment. They would feel a pump, feel an aerobic burn. They would get that kind of like, I'm feeling sort of like an athlete again. I'm sweating. I'm using my muscles. I'm using my cardio. And I'm working on sort of this well-rounded total body fitness. That's where I would start with them in terms of that. It would not be 10,000 steps. It would not be park farther away at the grocery store. It would not be take the stairs, not the escalator. It would not be get a standing desk. It would not be movement. Movement is better than sedentary.
Yep.
But as you just said, that athlete, that is not who this person is. This person needs to get basically from on the spectrum, they need to get from movement to exercise to training to well-rounded training. That's the higher level of spectrum. So all we're trying to do is move them from that sick, well-fit continuum.
Yep.
And if they're already sort of in that well category, they go to the gym, they do the things, then let's get them something that's going to get them to work a little more holistically. Mm-hmm. Muscles with cardio. Mm-hmm. Do 15 squats, 15 push-ups, 15 sit-ups, run for a minute. Repeat 5 times. Do that every day or 4 days a week, day on, day off, whatever it is. I'm a big believer in just momentum.
Yep.
So I'm a much bigger believer in really, this is what I did with Bodie, my son, this summer. I think we talked about this when Cole was on. I've very, very simple, same thing every day. He's done the same training program every single day this entire summer. Has he missed a day here or there? Yes, of course, right? But certainly 6 days a week. And he's turned into like a little mini beast because it's just this consistency play. Yep. So I would go, hey, just do this thing. I'm actually putting together a little framework of exactly this, of what do I think the right things would be. It's not ready for prime time yet, so I won't share it here, but we will soon, of exactly this type of thing. Where would we start? What would we do? And the punchline is it's very close to this, right?
Yep.
It's that we're going to use our upper body, all of our muscles in our body, and we're going to use them in a way that gets your cardio up and builds some strength and some mobility.
Mm-hmm. Take it. All right, we'll have that conversation when you're ready for it. Let's go to another factor. Let's go to sleep. Let's say that this is an individual who maybe struggles with energy or mood or focus, and we can kind of identify that maybe sleep is, if not the biggest lever, but maybe one of the levers that we can lean into that might really help all the other factors or the pursuit of the other factors.
Yep. What I would do here is kind of the opposite of what everyone is doing right now. everyone has an alarm to wake them up. I would have them set an alarm to go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah. So, and it's not like alarm goes off, close your eyes. It's alarm goes off, start the routine. Because what we end up doing is we just get distracted.
Yep.
And we get into whatever it is. We get into our work. We get into our great family relationships and conversations. We get into a TV show. We get into playing with our kids. We get into whatever it is. Set the alarm that starts the routine. So we do this at our house, which is at 7:45. That's our alarm that we go upstairs. Mm-hmm. And we go upstairs, and yeah, it might take us sometimes an hour, right? But we've started that process. Sometimes it takes us 20 minutes, and we brush our teeth, we read to the kids. Sometimes it's slower, and sometimes, we're not perfect humans. Sometimes we get on and we scroll for a little bit with the kids, or we do things, but at least we've started that routine, so we're not going to be off by 2 hours. That's what, if we go upstairs at 7:45, and in there, actually, I take it back. Even before the upstairs, 7:45 is start cleaning up from dinner. Like that's where we start clearing the table, doing the dishes. Sometimes there's like even laundry involved in that process. It might be longer, but that's where we stop the daily, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but like the mindless thing, right? Where you're just like not paying attention, like time is disappearing. That's where it's like, okay, guys, let's start wrapping this up.
Yep.
I think a bedtime alarm is an incredibly powerful, super easy tool that can have huge impacts for anybody.
Yeah. I love
and
that.
just backtrack, right?
Yeah.
So everyone has the alarm that they get up. Everyone knows what time they get up. I could ask anybody, and everyone's going to say, I get up at 6:15. I get up at 4:45. Like everyone's going to know the time. What time do you go to bed? People are like,
It depends on what's on Netflix. And
right.
Yeah.
So
I
just
love that.
backtrack at least 9 hours from that.
Yep.
You got
And
to
it's just
backtrack
a
9
good- it's
hours, and
just-
that's your bedtime
Yeah,
alarm.
it's just a good
At
trigger
least
to
9.
be like,
10 is
oh,
way better. 11's even better than that.
okay. All right, let's jump into another of our factors. Let's do mindset. So the person we're talking to feels stuck telling themselves the wrong stories or unhelpful stories. What's a minimum viable action that we can encourage them to take that might, again, begin to move them in the right direction, right?
This one's tougher because it's not as binary, right? It's in training, sleep, nutrition, or like I did that or I didn't.
Yep.
Whereas there's a little bit more, because to me, this one is amazing this way. This one is not like journaling. This is not meditating. This is, which are binary, but I actually don't think those are the places to start. I think that the biggest one here is the conversation is, can you hear the voice in your head?
Mm-hmm.
And can you map that voice on the continuum? That's what it'd be. It's like I would go, just listen to it. And the easier, I wouldn't go like, there's this victim, there's a pessimist. It's like, is the voice in your head being a critic, like judging other people, judging yourself, really negative?
Yep.
Or is it more of a coach, supportive, empowering, curious, asking the right questions? That's it. Like, that's it. And I would go, and by the way, like most of the time, you're not going to be aware of this. It's not going to matter.
Yep.
But when you get triggered, that is the time to ask yourself that question. That by itself is the biggest game changer. And then if you feel like it's just like, okay, how long does it take me to get back to center?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, that's the really simple thing.
Yeah,
and
I like
a lot of times, like a mantra helps there. Like, like this too shall pass. But
but I really do like that. So I guess I'll pose it as a question, which is it when you get knocked off center, notice what's happening? Or is it, hey, at some point in the day, think about what happened 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago?
No, it's when you get knocked off. Oh,
okay,
totally.
So
when
that's
you get
the
knocked
awareness.
off,
Yeah.
that is what that should be triggering, because it's going to biologically trigger an emotional response.
Yep.
A negative emotional response. There's positive triggers too, right? You get a raise, you're happy. That the trigger was something outside the normal happened. That's what a trigger is. There can be positive or negatives. When a negative trigger happens, and you feel yourself change emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. Sometimes you feel like a tightness in your chest, shortness of breath, belly, head. When you feel that, just start to pay attention to like, what's that voice saying? And what will end up happening is there's going to be light weights, medium weights, and heavy weights.
Mm-hmm.
And the light weights, you will be able to, if you start to pay attention for the really small ones, really, really small, you can change. You can get them back to center right then. It's awesome. It's so cool, right? Like, you're not in a rush, right? You're not in a rush. You have all the time in the world, and you're planning on going through that light, and the guy in front of you stops. Mm-hmm. You're like, what the? And you get like sort of pissed. Yep. You're like, wait, whoa.
I'm not
even in a rush. You can change it. And what happens is if you work on that enough with the light weights, you can start to handle the middle stuff. Maybe a middle thing is like you're going on a long car ride and your air conditioning isn't working, or your Bluetooth doesn't connect. I can't believe that's a middle thing, right? Talk about first world problems, right? But like that you can deal, like you start to go like, okay, like perspective, this is not the end of the world. I can deal with this. Now, that might be hard to deal with if you haven't done the work. But then if you do that, you can start to deal with the bigger things, which is like you get a text saying from your boss, can we talk first thing tomorrow morning? And what, like, you feel it, and you start emotionally, storytelling, all the rest. Like, can you just get, I'm not saying we can get back to center on that now. We can't deadlift 500 pounds now. But if we do the work, we can. It takes a lot of work, but we can.
In some ways, asking like, am I being a coach or a critic? Or I really like, is this hurting me or is this helping me? Those can both serve as a mantra, I think. Again, if you can recognize when it's happening and ask yourself that question, give yourself the slowness or the ability to slow down a little bit and actually answer it. I find that to be really helpful in the bringing back to center.
Viktor Frankl's saying is between stimulus, trigger, and response, emotion, there's a gap. In that gap is our ability to choose. So yeah, if you don't recognize that, there is no choice. Yep. And you go on the default pattern. But that's not the case. And we go like, we have these big ones, and the only ones we recognize are the big ones. So we go, there's no choice here. Like, my boss is acting like a dink. I hate that guy. Like, meanwhile, that's because we haven't done the work on the smaller stuff. Yep. That's like walking up to a 500-pound bar and going like, no, we can't lift that. Yeah. Well, of course you can't. We haven't done the work.
That barbell's a dink.
Dink.
Says that. Nutrition. God, this one we could spend years on. But what would be maybe a minimum viable action for somebody who is clearly maybe needing a little bit of work on the nutrition side?
There's a lot of first places to enter here. I would need to know a little bit more about the person, right? We've talked about that. What's the profile? But I think the one that we can all probably go to is kind of like the EC thing, is work on an additive, not a subtractive. Yep. Like, just try to eat a piece of real food at every meal. Yeah. Like just that. Like, okay, if you're going to have the frozen microwavable pizza, can you have an apple with it? Like that, Like, okay, if you're going to swing by McDonald's on the way home, like, can you also stop by the grocery store and get an orange? Like that type of thing. Like, try not to have any meals that don't involve any, so weird, right? Yes. Try not to eat things that aren't real food.
Try to eat real food.
One of my best friends, her daughter, this is so cool now. This is like, they talk about like feeling old, but her daughter, we were at the beach, and the book next to her, face down, like halfway through it, was In Defense of Food by Michael Pollan, which is the first nutrition book I ever read. Yep. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and we got on these tangents, like edible, man-made food-like substances. Like, that's what changed my perspective on this. Was like, those things aren't food. They're edible, but they're made by people in lab coats, in factories, and they're food-like. They look a lot like food, but it's actually not food. Mm-hmm. And once you have that, like, I couldn't get away from that. Like, once you see it, you can't unsee that. And I immediately, like, back in when I first got into space, that's what I read. I can remember when my mom gave it to me because she was like, this is what you're doing now. You should know about nutrition. That's how my mom talks, by the way.
Your mom's awesome. Okay, last one, connection. Minimal viable action. If somebody's perhaps feeling or seeming as though they're isolated, alone, perhaps don't have the relationships, don't have that crew that we've talked about.
Again, it's really, I hate to keep on saying this, but really depends on where they are. Let's say that they're in a marriage. I would start, and what happens in marriages that aren't going very well is people don't feel loved. That's what ends up happening is like, I just don't feel like I'm loved. And because of that, they don't give love. Mm-hmm. So then the other person goes, I don't feel loved.
Yep. Downward cycle.
Exactly. It's the downward sewer cycle. What I would do in that situation is, and this depends a little bit too, like what your spouse is, what I would do is find out, and maybe this is a bigger step, right? What is your spouse's love language? Like take the test, read the book. Like the short answer is give your spouse love. There is no bigger decision that will have more impact on the quality of your life than the partner you choose and the happiness you guys have together. That is so integral to a well-lived life. There's almost not a second. So in terms of the connection, relationship, first, of course, it starts with yourself. So when we say connection, it's connect with yourself, others, and nature. And I would love to say get out in sunshine, understand your vision, your principles, your values, understand what brings you joy, pleasure, what are your triggers, what are your vices, fight against those. But really, like the thing is we are relational beings. We are social animals. Our society has set it up to where we have a monogamous relationship with a single other person that we share a life with. You having a really powerful, meaningful, deep, connected relationship with that person is the most important thing. And the way to get it to be improved is to make them feel loved. It's not about you at all. So I'll give an example. Heather's is touch. So I track it. And I try to hug Heather every single day, and a long, meaningful hug. And my rule is I don't let go until she does.
Yep.
So not pats on the back, not bro hugs, but like deep, cheek to cheek, or the way we fit is her ear goes right in my eye socket. I know it sounds really weird, but and it's tight, real hug until she lets go. Now, if she was a gifts person, maybe I'm bringing her flowers once a week. Maybe if she was a time person, then maybe it's to make sure that we go on a walk together every night after dinner. If she was a words of affection, maybe I tell her I love her every single day on every single phone call, and I write her a short little note every single Sunday. Like find out the thing that makes them feel loved and give.
I think that's a good rule for just all of our relationships, which is maybe not specifically the love language, but to recognize that our job is to, in fact, give love. And if we are thinking too much about the love that we are receiving, it will probably steal from us our ability to actually give love. And giving love is the way we become more connected with the people around us, is to recognize that that's actually our role. That's our job.
Yeah. And
it's
just
not to receive, it's to give.
Right. It is about the best gift is to give. It's like, I heard that as a kid and I was like, you've never gotten a bike.
When you see my Nintendo.
Yeah. I was the second kid on my block to get a Nintendo. It's way better than that mug I made for my mom in ceramics. But I also do really believe in this, like it's a personality thing. Like if you've ever been in business and you've had taken those things are so eye-opening because the way that you are trying to communicate with other people on your team is not the way that they absorb it. And you're like, I'm trying so hard. And they're like, they're not trying at all. Like, And it's the same thing with this love thing. If your love language is gifts and you come home every single night with, one night it's you come home with flowers. The next one is you bought them jewelry. The next one is you bought them a new piece of clothing. Then on the weekend, you buy them a car and they still show you nothing. You're like, I am doing everything. I do everything for this person. Meanwhile, they felt nothing. They feel no love whatsoever if that's not their language. So I really think it's really important before we try to give and connect is to learn about it's kind of like the same thing with this advice in general.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to help try to move someone towards their goals, I have to know a lot about them.
Yes.
Before I do that, I can't go, we should sign up for an Ironman.
Right.
Like what?
Totally. Yep.
Like, no, what do you mean? Sign up for an Ironman? Like I have no desire. There's no. Like I actually like you less because you said that. Right? Yep. As opposed to being like, what we should do? We should walk our dogs together. Someone's like, that's great. I love that. Like, okay, then we just find out what it's not about you.
It's not about you. That's a good place to wrap up. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.
Oikos presents 15 Seconds of Strength.
Here we go. Steve's got a trunk full of groceries and no one to help him.
Oh, that's tough, Jim. Looks like a 5-trip load at least.
He grabs the first bag, the second. Bob, it looks like he's trying to do it all in one trip. He shimmies the door open, steps over the dog. Oh, and he stumbles.
Oh, right into the kitchen without missing a beat. Jim, now that's a man who eats his protein-packed Oikos.
With 15 grams of complete protein in each cup, Oikos 000 can help build strength for every day. Oikos, stronger makes everything better.